Next, we're going to welcome Mindy Moffatt, longtime resident activist and cultural worker extraordinaire. I mean, you all know Mindy. And she hopes that if you have come disheartened or depressed, that you will be enchanted by stories and go home to be comforted by the sweet territory of silence. And she will perhaps explain what that means. Anyway, welcome, Mindy.
As a retired teacher, I really miss the fun stuff I did with my students, 6th graders, in a middle school. And one of the things we used to do is I'd teach history, social studies, ancient civilizations, basically. And I had a wonderful book that had stories in it, that had the history told in stories. And that went over a lot better than the textbooks. So I was thinking I'm missing that. And I was wondering if I could have, ideally, 6 women from the audience and 6 men as volunteers to help me tell this story. Please come on up. And I do need one young girl. One young girl. If we can, come on up. Oh, thank you. Come on up.
I'm 5'4".
Okay. Yeah. With a 10-foot wingspan. Oh, thank you. All right. Okay. We need one more woman over here. Mike Cram, where are you? Come on, please. Joe, would you come up? Thank you. Okay, we got 5 women. We got 6 now. Thank you. Okay. And Mike, okay, now we're going to have 5. How about one more husband?
Come on,
Yeah, come on. Okay. Yay. Yay. What? Yeah, we need, yeah. Yay, okay. So, okay. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to just listen to the story, and you are going to act out what is happening in the story so that the audience, who may not be as good of listeners as 6th graders used to think they were, so that they can see the story and still understand the story without needing to hear it only. So, what you're going to have to figure out is, where is your village? And where will be the wild onion patch that the women will go to? And each of you women will need a lodge. And one of these guys is going to be your husband. So, you guys have to have the onions. Now, okay, please say your name. Let's find out who's helping us out here. Dee.
Catherine. Anna. Lee. Bobby. Sanjay.
Adam.
Charlie. Handsome.
All right, okay. So, none of them knew they were going to do this, but it's going to be fun. I think we'll all enjoy it. Yeah. So, you know what? Why don't you all get to wherever how about we put the village over there?
Okay.
And why don't you all go over to your village? Wives find a husband. It's kind of like a square dance or something. Do-si-do. Joe and Bobby. Imagine that connection, huh? Okay. All right. This story is from the Wenatchee Indians, who still are on the Tule River Reservation, along with from other people from some of the other tribes. And so it's pretty local, just down into the valley. And it's called The 6 Wives Who Ate Onions. And it's a sky myth. It's about the constellation, the Pleiades. And, most cultures have their own stories about the different stars in the sky. And I wish the Pleiades were up at this time of year, but they're normally a winter constellation. And when they come up, the natives know when to when to harvest, when to plant their seeds, and it's a very, very important constellation in the sky. And in Greece, it's a story of 6 girls who were being chased by the hunter Orion, and Zeus turned them into pigeons. Catherine would know this story a lot better than I do. She teaches it. But anyway, they were chased. Zeus turned them into pigeons, and they flew up into the sky to get away from Orion. And Orion is still chasing them with his dog Sirius through the sky as the Pleiades go across the sky. And now you're going to hear a different version of it from the Wenatchee Indians. A long time ago, when the earth was new, there were 6 young wives. And their group were hunters. Their tribe was hunters and gatherers. The women would go out looking for fruits and nuts and berries, and they'd carry digging sticks, and they would dig for things so that they could feed their families. Now, their husbands were the hunters. Big, manly men. Hunters. And they got together. This tribe was thriving. Okay, so one day, the men went out to do their manly job of hunting cougar. So the men went off to hunt cougar. Cougar. Okay. And while the men were off hunting the cougar, the women went out with their digging sticks and they started looking for their food. When one woman came across something brand new.
Oh, yeah, look at this!
They had never seen such a food before that she had dug out of the ground. And she tried tasting it. And it was the sweetest wild onion in the entire world. She couldn't wait to share it with the other women. Soon, all the women stopped their gathering and they sat down and they spent the whole rest of the day eating the wild, sweet onions. Eventually, it began to get dark, and they went, uh-oh, got to get back to the husbands, got to go back to our lodges and cook dinner. So the women went back to their lodge to start cooking for their husbands. Now, when each woman was in her lodge, and when her husband came to the door, each of the husbands stopped because they could not stand the smell. The husbands were each so happy. Every single one of them had killed a cougar, and they came home ready to celebrate with their wives. But they couldn't believe what the smell was that was coming from inside their lodge. And when they went to kiss their wives hello, they had to turn away in disgust. In fact, the wives said, oh, but you ought to try this. These are sweet wild onions. We just found them. They're new to us and they taste so good. And the men wanted to have nothing to do with it. To the effect that the men said, I'm not going to sleep with you in this lodge tonight. And so the men told the women to leave and go outside in the cold to sleep. Well, the women were so cold they couldn't sleep at night, and the men weren't as happy as they would like to be either. But the next day, the men went off to hunt cougar. They should have maybe, well, and the women went out. The women went out to go to that wild onion patch again and hunt and gather again. Okay. And they spent the whole next day even longer eating the onions. They loved the onions. Finally, it began to get dark again, and they went, uh-oh, we better run home to our husbands, because they had been out even longer. So the women ran back to their lodges. And once again, the men came home from hunting, but this time, the men didn't kill any cougars. And they looked at their wives, and they said, it's all your fault. We smelled like onions, and the cougar didn't want to have anything to do with us. It's all your fault. Yeah. They didn't know to, rub themselves with sage, did they, Joel? Maybe you could teach them sometime. So, once again, they said, wives, you're out of here. Go outside and sleep in the cold. They slept by themselves in the lodge. And this went on for 7 days. The women would go out and eat onions. They'd come home. The men would go off and go hunting, and they came back with nothing. They would blame the women. The women finally got tired of sleeping out in the cold. So, yeah. She listened well, didn't she? Okay. Yeah. So that day, the men went off hunting, and the women went out. The women, before they went out, though, they grabbed their eagle down ropes, special magical ropes. And this time, when the women were sitting around on a boulder near the village, one woman, let's see, we got 6, okay. One woman was saying, I'm tired of this. Let's leave our husbands. This is no way to live, and we don't need them. So she took her eagle down rope and she threw it into the sky. She sang a song. I'm sorry, I forgot. You sang a song. And they did a dance. And they were enchanted by the stories. And then they found the sweet territory of silence. And they decided, we're going to leave our husbands. So the one woman took her eagle down rope and she threw it up into the sky, and it looped over a cloud so that both ends hung down over the cloud. And then the other women went over and they took their eagle down ropes and tied them to the one that was hanging over the cloud. Then the women sang, they each got on an end of a rope. And the rope, they started singing a song, and the rope started spinning. And the rope that was on the cloud spun the women and took them up in large circles into the sky. Now the other people from the village looked up and they said, oh no, look, women, wives, come down, please come down. We need you. But the wives just continued to sing and dance and spin in the sky. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Now, the men had been alone for a week. They had not killed any cougar, and they finally decided that they maybe ought to change the way they were handling it. So they decided, let's go get our wives and bring them back, even though they do smell like onion, because some senses are stronger than the sense of smell. So the men went to get their wives, who were dancing and spinning in the sky. And all the wives said, stop! The wives said, you didn't want us. You told us to leave. So we left. And you know what? We're happier here. So the wives continued to dance and spin. The men said, but we want you back. And the wives just danced and spun. The men begged one last time.
We'll die down here.
And the women continued to spin in the sky. One of the women even had a daughter. And the daughter came up in two. And even the daughter said, I don't want to go back down there and live with the men. So the men stayed down in their village, missing their wives, until they figured out that they had some eagle down ropes too. But the wives were faster than they were. And to this day, the 6 husbands are still chasing the 6 wives in the sky. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank
Thank you, Mindy, very much. Oh, everybody, give Mindy a round of applause. Give all those other suckers who came up here a round of applause.